We now head to Sierra Leone, where police have said the nighttime curfew enforced on Wednesday in response to violent anti-government protests in the country will remain in place. The force said the curfew declared by Vice President Dr. Mohamed Jallow will continue to be enforced after dozens of civilians and 6 police officers were killed in anti-government protests. Hundreds of people have been taking part in demonstrations in Freetown in places such as Makeni and Kamakwe in the opposition's northern stronghold. Videos and social media showed large crowds of protesters and piles of burning tires in eastern Freetown. The protesters said they are fed up with the high cost of living, corruption and police brutality. Now, joining us from the capital of Sierra Leone, Freetown, to take a look at this development is Marcella Samba Sesai. She is the Executive Director, Campaign for Good Governance in Sierra Leone. Very good evening to you, Marcella, and thanks for joining us at NC Continental Prime.
Good evening, and thanks for having me.
Now, Marcella, some observers believe that the protest for better living conditions could turn fatal, as witnessed yesterday. What could be the reason for the dimension the protest took?
It's really unfortunate, and it was really disturbing for all of us to see, especially with the legacies of civil conflict that are still fresh in the minds of people. Yesterday, the protest turned violent, and as I did say, it was truly unfortunate. The circumstances around the protest were mainly due to incitement from social media, and the protest never turned out to be peaceful but violent, and the youths were running in the streets, burning houses, and it leads to a number of fatalities, including the killing of innocent civilians and other civilians as well who were involved in the protest, and equally police personnel. So my organization, Campaign for Good Governance, have called for calm, and I've also called on various stakeholders to make sure they engage this particular situation with some amount of good reason. We also note that whilst it is necessary for citizens to express their rights and their concerns, while it's also legal to demonstrate, it must be done within the confines of the law so that it cannot affect ordinary citizens going about their normal businesses. It is also important for the Sierra Leone police to also note that citizens have a right to express the grievances, their disaffection, and the spaces must be created for their opinions to be, to be expressed. So in every instance where police have tried, to address this issue, it has turned fatal. So the question is, the police need the requisite capacity to make sure that the proportion of violence, to make sure that the degree of force that is used is proportionate. It is also important that whilst we talk about all of this, we encourage especially Sierra Leoneans in the diaspora to use social media responsibly. Because when incitements and hate speech permeates the entire social media, the youths who are vulnerable, it was really a depressing sight to see youth. The youth bulge is real in Sierra Leone. The youths are unemployed, and their vulnerabilities at the slightest point in time can be exploited. So it's really unfortunate that this happened, and it's important that government look at this holistically and constructively and set priorities in place so that the youth will be a priority and they are engaged so they do not become a readily available source of violence.
Now, Marcella, a section of the population of Sierra Leone have said the Vice President's declaration of a curfew yesterday was unconstitutional. What do you make of it? Do you think it's unconstitutional? It was a necessary step made by the Vice President, Dr. Mohamed Jallow, to keep calm and, to bring the situation under control. What are your thoughts?
So for us, it's Campaign for Good Governance. We believe that it was a necessary and temporary measure. And whilst we know that it's a temporary measure to restore calm and sanity to the country, it is also important that whatever the government does is done within the ambit of the law.
Now, Marcella, I understand that President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, President Julius Maada Bio, cut short his vacation and is now in Freetown. Has he addressed the nation yet? And do you think the government has the requisite capacity to address the yearnings and the complaints of the people with regards to the high cost of living? Because I understand that half of Sierra Leone's population lives below the poverty line.
So we as an organization are continuously calling for a space for dialogue. So that the government must understand the needs of citizens and to try as best as possible to put plans in place to address them. You know, violence, especially in Sierra Leone, would only exacerbate the situation. The burnings and the killings yesterday no doubt define the sort of future we look up to as a democratic development country. We want to see a situation where citizens and the government must take up the honors to create a space for that dialogue. And it is that dialogue with the young people, dialogue with different groups, dialogue with segments of society, for government to share its visions and aspirations, and equally so to say how the plan, you know, to address the questions of economic challenges that the citizens are also putting forward.
Thank you very much, Marcella, for joining us on the news this evening. We'll definitely keep our eyes on the situation in Sierra Leone. Thanks for your time and contribution.